Hi, I'm Marione, and one time, my crush made fun of me for being fat when he saw me at the gym he works at. But before I tell you anything else, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell icon to show your support for me. I wasn't this fat before. Not that other people should have a say in what you look like, but I was still worried. Ever since the pandemic happened and my whole life was basically constrained to a 50-square-foot apartment, I began to steadily gain weight. I got very much into baking, and like most people who have internet, I may have succumbed to Googling how to make banana bread. Needless to say, after a year of sitting around doing nothings and scarfing down an untold number of delectable baked goods, I put on a lot of weight, and I have to say, I'm fine with it. I'm comfortable in my new skin. I feel sexy, even. I guess the only part I have a problem with is the way people would look at me now. Or the way people would not look at me. I'm not bad looking. I think I'm cute, actually. And I would be a terrible liar if I said I didn't like the attention. So yeah, it was a bit sobering to find out that once I changed this shape, guys looked at me differently. It was disappointing, to be honest. To find out that looks mattered that much to most people. So I was bummed about that. That and the fact that I was beginning to have trouble going up and down my 4th-floor apartment. So when the gyms opened back up, I made it a point to go. I didn't really make it a goal to just lose weight. I just wanted to be in shape again. And by that, I mean that I wanted to get up to a level of physical activity where I can hike and go up the stairs again without feeling out of breath. To be quite honest, I had already embraced my new curves. I didn't feel like I wanted to get back into having bony elbows and knees. But that all changed when I walked into the gym. I could feel the stares, even though my eyes were glued to the floor. I could hear the girls judging me just by the way they smiled. And every time I would hop on a machine, I felt like people were laughing at the fascinating sight of a large woman trying to find her balance on an elliptical. When I saw Jordan coming towards me, I smiled. I felt saved. Finally, a familiar face in a stressful environment, I thought. Well, I thought wrong. Marione, is that you? Wow, been riding the binge train at midnight, haven't we? Were his first words to me. My smile immediately disappeared. Who says that to someone? Really, I'm asking. Who just says that to an old friend they hadn't seen in ages? Good morning to you too, Jordan, I laughed, deciding to brush aside the obvious insult he just used to greet me. Just popping in to sweat a little. Signed myself up for a few classes. What are you doing here? You obviously don't need the workout, I said, noting his muscular physique. He sure went through quite a change. See, back in high school, Jordan was a bigger guy. He was handsome, funny, and always had such a great wit about him, and I had a massive crush on Jordan. But I guess he never noticed me because he was too busy feeling bad for himself. I tried to be there for him when he was getting picked on by the other guys, but he only ever looked at me as a friend. And then, I guess our friendship died along the way. Jordan changed as soon as he went to college. He went on numerous diets and cleanses and procedures, just so he could look the way he'd always wanted to look. And unfortunately, when Jordan's old physique disappeared, so did he. His personality underwent a major transformation. He was no longer into the stuff that made him, in my opinion, at least, interesting. All he had time for was the gym and looking at himself in the mirror. It was as if a switch had been flipped and the fun-loving, charming bookworm I knew turned into an absolute douche. Despite all that, I have to confess that I still had feelings for him. Not for the person that he was now, but for the person I knew was still in there. Behind the perfectly coiffed hair and the ridiculous pecs, I believed he was still in there, or I convinced myself of it. So when I saw him again that day, I was surprised at how antagonistic he was behaving. "Yeah, I saw you were in one of my classes," he said as he helped me down from the treadmill. "That's why I came to find you. But damn, I didn't even expect I'd ever see you looking like this." He looked me up and down and began to shake his head. There was some disappointment in his eyes, and the smirk on his lips were mocking me. "Why's that?" I asked. Well, to be honest, this... He gestured with his hand to point out my whole body. This is just wrong. You need to take better care of yourself, Marione. That's why I'm here, aren't I? It was starting to get really difficult to not take offense, but I smiled and tried to be as pleasant as I could. It seemed to work. Soon enough, Jordan bid me farewell. See you in class this Thursday, all right? He waved me goodbye. And promise you won't quit. Fat people tend to quit very quickly. I won't, I assured him through a smile that was fighting to break into a snarl. Wow, I had completely forgotten how much arrogance he'd acquired after getting abs. Must be all those steroids he periodically takes. It was no wonder his hairline was saying sayonara so early in his 20s as well. What a tool. Hey, said a voice from behind me, and when I turned around, I saw Pete for the first time. He introduced himself and I shook his hand. We had lunch together that day. We became fast friends, and soon enough, we ended up going to the gym at the same time. Having Pete there turned my gym experience around. He was supportive and didn't put up with anybody's nonsense. He introduced me to some people, and I ended up meeting some really cool people. Turns out, the feelings I had when I first went there were mostly in my head. Not everyone was looking at me funny or mocking me for being fat. Not everyone, but there were actually some, and among those people was Jordan. He picked on me in class. He would always call me out in front of the rest, telling his students to make sure they never get to the point where they become my weight. Once he told me loudly that he was considering ordering a special bike for me because the one I was using sounded like it was going to break from the strain of my weight. It was utterly embarrassing. I thought at first that was just how he motivated people. It didn't work for me, but maybe it did work for others. But after a few sessions in his spin class, I realized he was just doing it to be mean. For some reason, he had it in for me, and I had no idea why. One Thursday, he cornered me just before the class began, filing out after the class. "Why are you even here, Marione?" he asked loudly with so much anger that some of the girls actually stopped in their tracks and stayed to see what was going on. That made me anxious. Nobody likes being put on the spot, much less if it's to humiliate you, but that's what Jordan did to me. "You come in and you barely try. Are you even trying, Marione?" exclaimed Jordan. "What are you talking about, Jordan?" I replied. "I haven't missed a single class. I haven't cheated on my diet even though the one you have me on constantly makes me nauseous. I've been putting in the same time and effort as everyone else." "Then why aren't you losing more weight?" he erupted. His voice was so loud that everyone in the gym began tuning into our afternoon drama. Jordan had lost it. "I don't know," I replied. "Shouldn't you be the one telling me why, seeing as I'm paying you to help me with weight loss? I've done everything you've told me." Jordan didn't have a response to that. Instead, he said, "Do you think I don't know what you're doing? You coming in here, always staring and batting your eyelashes at me. Do you think I don't know you have a crush on me? It's inappropriate, you know. I work here. So now that I've got this amazing body, you finally notice me, huh? Special pretty Marione finally pays attention to the fat kid because he's hot now? Well, guess what? You're the fat one now. You hippo-looking tent-wearing ugly But before he could finish what he was about to say, Pete burst into the room and raised his fist, ready to punch Jordan in the face. I immediately stopped him. At that point, everyone was watching us, and although Jordan's words stung, my anger was stronger. How dare he say those things to me when I was the only one who was there for him when he was being bullied? And how dare he insinuate that I was trying to get his attention? Sure, he was hot, but did he also become ever so dull? I restrained Pete from getting too close to Jordan. I turned to him and said, "Hey, you don't need to get in trouble on account of me. I got this." Pete's nostrils flared, but he backed down. He stood there, ready to defend me. But heck if I was gonna let anyone take the satisfaction of putting Jordan in his place. I walked forward 3 steps until our faces nearly touched, and then I slapped the living soul out of Jordan. "Nobody gets to talk to anyone like that, Jordan," I hissed at him. "I don't care who you think you are. First of all, you must be blind to think I'm still interested in you. Sure, I had a crush on you. In high school. When I found out you've grown into becoming such a massive tool, that interest disappeared. I look at you because I'm making sure I do exactly as you teach us. That's the reason there's mirrors all around us, isn't it? Or have your supplements taken your brain away as well? You ever talk to me or anyone in this gym again, I will make sure you get fired." At that, I walked away. Of course, I never returned. And I don't care if Jordan thinks I proved him right when he told me fat people quit. Because I didn't. Pete and I left the gym, but we ran and hiked together. I eventually lost some of the weight with the right food and exercise, but I didn't go overboard. I still wanted to keep some of the curves I developed. Last I heard, Jordan got fired for that incident. Turned out people weren't happy about what they witnessed. Oh, and guess what? Pete and I ended up dating. He proposed to me a few months ago, and I sent Jordan an invite to our wedding.